So in terms of branch network, is there an upside potential to further develop, or are you about where you want to be?
There is, and there's this trend that we are seeing because because in the last 3 years we have trained these branch frontliners to sell what we call the unit trust funds. But going forward, as I said about deepening relationship with customers, the key is to have these people capable of investment advice, or what we call financial advice. So there's this continuous training of the people in the branches to be able to render effective financial advice to individual customers.
And the remittance business, at which point does it touch your business?
Right now, we call it the penetration rate in that customer segment which we call overseas Filipinos, is still very small. But that's a trend that we see changing in the next in this decade. This rising number of what we call the aspirants would want to build wealth, and as they do that, they look at opportunities in the asset management products to be able to build that wealth. That's about well, we know that about 17 billion US dollars is remitted annually to the Philippines by overseas Filipino workers, and that's about 10% of our GDP. So, and we have access to them because we have a very strong share in the remittance business. So we know these customers. So it's just being able to provide those products to this overseas Filipinos.
Of the money that comes in, I think about 16 billion a year, what percentage of that remittance money would you say can be captured by the asset management industry?
Well, initially, it's I would be happy to see at least 10% of that being captured initially. It's a whole, I guess it depends on the life stage where they are. Right now, they're probably looking after, I guess, the education needs of their children and basic financial needs. But the opportunity going forward is to be able to provide this, let's say, retirement planning products or solutions that will provide that opportunity to tap this market segment.
The results that you've been able to show as part of the consolidated commercial bank operations, how long do you think that's going to be sustainable? 2 years, good results. The next 2 years, do you think that you're also going to be the star in the stable of the BPI businesses?
Well, there's always what we call, at some point, specific business will mature over time. Right now, we're still in that early stages, and I believe that we will continue to sustain a decent double-digit growth in terms of assets under management.
Who are your competitors? The profile of the industry is that there are two institutions, one of which is yours, with more than 20% market share, and then there's a third, and then there's everybody else. But is that how you see your competitors, or are you afraid of, say, the smaller foreign players, or are there small players that provide a value proposition and are highly profitable that you need to be looking at?
Well, I would still consider the two big players as our... Yes, and as I said, the key to this business is distribution, because it's all about size and scale. You gotta have the investment in technology, in people, and of course, as I said, the brand equity has to be there. And there are small players who play their own niche, but we don't see them much as a fierce competitor.
What are some of the downside risks of the Philippine economy in terms of the fund management industry? How sensitive it is? Is it to interest rates, as you said, or currency movements and external factors? What are some of the issues that you are worried about in terms of growing the business?
Well, of course, there's always market volatility, and as we move more of the savings to investing, there has to be a lot of education in terms of, I guess, the risks that go with investing. And that's one of the areas that we watch out for in terms of the risk, for example, of volatility in our assets under management. A couple of years ago, or it was back in 2006, when there was threat of rising interest rates globally and rising commodity prices, there was some pressure on domestic interest rates in the Philippines, and we saw some large redemptions in the unit trust fund industry, and that was about the time when the reforms in terms of marking to market valuation and new regulatory landscape for unit trust funds were being implemented at that time, and we saw tremendous growth in the retail unit trust fund business, and that's what we watch out for in terms of making sure that the investors are prepared to invest in more sophisticated products from the traditional deposit that they became used to.
Do you see currency risks as being something that can affect the remittance business that you're eyeing at the moment?
Well, there's a core in terms of the amount of money, a core amount of money that's being sent, because there's these needs that are that they're addressing. In fact, in situations where we see a sharp appreciation of the peso, that's where we also see a sharper increase in terms of money being sent, because the expenses are denominated in pesos.
In the last 2 years, at which points did you see large-scale redemptions in your business?
Well, if you're talking of the last 2 years, the opposite happened in the Philippines. 2008, we saw a huge drop in global AUMs, but if you look at the Philippine asset management industry, we in fact saw some modest, about 6% growth, when everybody else suffered from huge drops, both in terms of redemptions as well as asset price decline. Last year was a very good year because we saw a lot of inflows. At the same time, opportunities in capital markets provided
large-scale redemptions at any point in the past?
In 2006, I think I mentioned that earlier, and that's where we, that's when we experienced a huge spike in interest rates. And then the domestic bond markets was heavily affected. We saw redemptions.
What's the prospect of the forthcoming elections on your business, you think?
Well, the market is concerned about whether there will be a smooth transition of government come June 2010. And as long as there is a peaceful election and there's confidence in the winner, so there'll be continued confidence in the financial market, in the banking business as a whole.
Yeah. Theresa Javier, thank you very much for spending time with us.
Thank you so much.